and yet we play soft coverage and prevent defence with one of the quickest secondaries in the NFL. Look at the players on our defence. Why are we worried about players, Rams players of all players, beating us over the top when we've got Tariq Woolen, who's probably the fastest corner in the NFL, or is the fastest corner in the NFL?
But please, will you politely fuck off? You stay out of this. You don't bring your negativity into the positive room.
Can I just start off by saying we're now officially a Super Bowl contender after this week?
Ladies and gentlemen, Seahawks and football fans everywhere, a very warm welcome back to the We Talk Seahawks podcast. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing better than I am, because I'm not doing well this week, lads. I'll put my cards on the table already. I am. My head's gone. It's 1 week. We wait 1 year for football. We come on, do our actions. Oh yeah, you know, NFC Championship contenders, 13-win seasons. Week 1, we lose to the Rams, and we're signing 41-year-old retired offensive tackles. It's football's back, and I'll be honest with you, I wish it wasn't at this point. We have come crashing back down to earth, land flat smack on my ass, and it hurts like fuck. My head hurts like fuck. I'm absolutely distraught, to be honest. So it's a good job we do a podcast so I can let it all out to you lads, and whoever chooses to listen to this undoubted runtime length, whatever it is, of just pure non-stop aggression, angry takes. It's we need to get it all out this week, and hopefully this is the not the norm this season. Let's put it that way. But yeah, not the start we all envisioned or wanted. But to talk about it with me, to therapize with me as always, Positive himself. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. The start of this podcast summed up Sunday night.
Yeah.
Press record. James is on mute, talking to himself.
Yeah.
Me and Mitch laughing. That's great.
Perfect start.
You're still good though.
But not to worry, everyone. Before we start ranting and losing our minds, and I don't even think it's an overreaction, because that game was so shambolic. Any reaction, no matter how scale it is warranted with that absolute piss. I was just sat on my sofa, like confused. Like my wife had come downstairs, hit me around the head with a 2x4, and I was just stuck there like, what's going on?
Like some Looney Tunes animation or something.
Yeah.
How are you, mate?
Traumatized. No, not that bad. I'm fine. The overriding thing now is just disappointment. I'm not angry. Just a little bit. We all anticipated a win for the Seahawks, and we all anticipated a healthy win to the Seahawks. So to have lost in the manner that we did, by the margin we did, it took a little while to understand it. I'm game day and post game day. I'm usually quite vocal in our Discord, but I'd spent quite a long time trying to fully comprehend who to blame, where did it all go wrong, and I now feel ready to to chew the fat with you guys and then put it behind me and never talk about it again. To be honest,
I could imagine in Mitch's house there was a big work got scrapped off for 2 days, and there's a big whiteboard. And he's just there like, what went wrong? Spider diagram. And he's just like a mad scientist in his house.
I've compressed it all down into some notes on my phone. So when it is my turn to talk about my take on it, I'll go into all of the bits that went wrong and my hypothesis on why this has happened.
As you can see, my arms are folded. I have zero notes. This is going to be nonsensical.
Just off the top.
Just ranting. Ranting.
Good. That's what we love about you, son.
Contrasting styles.
Contrasting styles, yes, absolutely. Let's get into it, because I don't want to spend any longer talking about this game than we need to, and I'm sure you don't want to spend any time longer than you need to be listening to it. So let's start with the offense, as we always do on our game reviews. Let's start with the main man, Geno. Up until halftime, like I say, really, and I'll bring these guys in already because it hinges on it for me. It's the two offensive tackles going down, and before that, I think Geno looks okay, not as amazing as last season, but he looked okay. I think things were sort of just ticking over okay. It wasn't explosive, wasn't, I wasn't blown away by it, but it was okay. We were winning at halftime. Kenny Walker was looking excellent, and then the 2 offensive tackles go down, and I mean, it's the second half from absolute hell. A little stat here, courtesy of Rich Hiribar on Twitter. The Seahawks ran 14 offensive plays in the second half yesterday, the fewest in a Week 1 game since 2008, and that's the fewest in any game, period, since 2019. They gained 12 yards on those plays, right? The fewest in second half of any game since 2008, when the Bears had 2 yards in the second half of Week 12 versus Minnesota. And by the way, 9 of those yards came on the final play with a token run to clock the game.
I was just about to say, let's correct that.
Yeah.
It was 3 yards. And on Twitter, people try and correct me and go, oh, it's actually 12, mate. It's like, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
No.
It was pathetic. It was, one thing we know for certain
it was awful.
now with Geno, one thing we know for certain now is if he doesn't have an offensive line, he is fucked with a capital F. He can't do, his play style cannot exist if he does not have a competent O-line in front of him. We saw it last year in bits, and oh my God, did we see it in spades on Sunday night. That is concerning, very, very concerning.
Yeah, it was really concerning. It was just, like I say, it all fell apart in the most glorious of manners in the second half. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The offensive line was non-existent, completely non-existent. So I'll give him some credit in that respect, because he couldn't do a hell of a lot behind that offensive line anyway. But as we've always said about Geno, when he gets under pressure, he doesn't look like the same quarterback as he can when he drops back into a clean pocket. Granted, that's most quarterbacks, but some quarterbacks, the elite ones like your Mahomes, as Josh Allen at times, can sort of still work around that. Geno, you just have to give him a clean pocket, or like you say, he becomes a totally different quarterback. And the play calls as well. I didn't get what I didn't get for me is the hurry up offense in the second half. You could see our heads on the offense, the offensive linemen, the receivers. Nobody really knew what they were doing. Nobody, their heads were all scrambled quite clearly, and yet we're trying to sort of speed up the process of making plays and making decisions. What? Just take your time. Just say what I didn't understand the need to go to a hurry up offense when we needed as much time to gather our thoughts as possible, and we tried to run an up-tempo off. I didn't understand that either, but it was just a disaster, from play calling to injuries. Lockett going out, obviously a big miss early in the game. DK, other than his touchdown, was fairly non-existent and dropping balls on slants as he always does. That's the one thing I really hate about DK, and he's always had it in his game. But we'll give a bit of love to Ken Walker, though, because I thought in terms of the offense, he stood out amongst everyone on that team. He was trying to put that team on his back for as much as he could, and I thought he was brilliant, even though his stat line isn't unbelievable. If you watch the game,
it was a good first half stat line.
Brilliant. Yeah.
6 carries, 64 yards or something, wasn't it?
Because, yet again, like last year, a stat that people used against him was forever and a day, he had defenders all around the backfield, and he was running around like a headless chicken trying to regain yards and just get to the line of scrimmage multiple times. I really hope at the back end of the game where Dallas came in, it was just a case of, right, this is in the toilet. Let's just not let's not put him out. Yeah, let's just protect him with the groin. Let's just leave him. Hopefully he's not picked anything up with that groin. It was a case of them going, well, this game is done. Let's just take Ken out, protect him. The thing, you kind of summarised the whole offense there from Geno. So instead of me going way, way off with my own thoughts, Mitch, what are your thoughts on the whole Geno offense? Whatever you want to do.
I want to talk a little bit about how different our offense was in the first half to the second half. because I know it's difficult to do, but if you put the second half out of your mind, right, it hasn't happened. We're going in at half time. Every time we've had the ball, we scored points. First drive, 3 points. Second drive, 7 points. Third drive, 3 points. Then we get the interception and we go up the field. We go for the field goal, doink the post. Hitting that post might as well have been a bad luck gong for us. Someone hit the gong. From that point onwards, you don't score any more points, right? Because every time we touched the ball first half, apart from the post, we scored points. It looked a little rusty. There were a couple of drop catches here and there, but by and large, the running game was established and regular and on schedule. Geno was doing his usual thing, connecting passes, staying on schedule, attempting the odd deep ball. Fine, that's Geno. That's what we know. That's what we come to know. And we put up how many points by halftime? 14. It's 4. It was all of our points for the games at 13.
13.
Yeah, we were ahead. We were ahead by a score. And 13 points on the board, scored very close to scoring on every time we touched the ball. I came back second half thinking, right, let's go. Rust is off. Geno's had his warm up. Let's go. I was thinking like this 13 in the first half is going to be more like 20 in the second half. I didn't see anything in that first half, which made me think we're going to get beat here. The stuff on defense we'll come to because that kind of knits in with it meshes in with this a little bit, but. First half was fine. Second half, without the tackles, we had a huge problem because the way we were dealing with the Rams pass rush, and I think they only really had one major pressure in the first half, which was Maxwell uncovered. Because if you remember, Geno walked up to the line and audibled Ringo, 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 which means max protection right. So the offensive line shuffled over to the right, came straight off that edge on the left or their right. Because they shifted the line over. That was the only time they got pressure in the first half with our offensive line. Shift to the second, and the reason for it, the casing point with the offense was when you watched Aaron Donald, he was double teamed every play. You saw center and guard double teaming him. You saw guard and tackle double teaming him every play. When the tackle and the guard that were double teaming was Cross or Abraham Lucas. Who's Aaron Donald? He wasn't involved in anything. We had him under control. Yes, other people were getting in because of that double team, but it wasn't Aaron Donald. Hence, Geno Smith had a little bit more time. He didn't have to rush. He was making short, sharp completions, and the run game was established, and we were able to march the ball at least into field goal range every time. As soon as we didn't have the tackles involved in those double teams, went to pot. Curhan and Stone Forsyth are not starting tackles in the NFL, and when you're playing against an X-factor defensive lineman like Aaron Donald, you don't really want them involved in double teams either. And that's not being mean to them, but that is a generational defensive lineman that would give any tackle in the league a really difficult shift. And in the second half, we achieved 2 first downs, right? Or 3 first downs. Because of the one that we got at the end of the game with Charbonnet, which you could just call garbage time. So, yeah, it was really difficult, and it's hard as well to establish a run game when you've got a porous offensive line that people are charging through, because you don't establish any lanes. Everyone can come up because your quarterback doesn't have the time for the routes to develop to be a deep threat. So everyone comes up, the running game suffers. It just all compounds and it all comes off. Those tackles get leaving the game. So that's my take. I think Geno wasn't at his best in the second half. I don't think he was at his best in the first half, but at least in the first half, we had a rusty Geno Smith with time to complete the easy stuff and hand the ball off. Second half, he barely had time to hand the ball off before he had Aaron Donald, in his lap, basically. And we've all heard that sound bite of him saying, "Oh my God," which is incredibly embarrassing.
Summed that offense. Oh my God.
So yeah, that's my take on why the second half looked nothing like the first. And I think a lot of people have said, "Oh, it's just the tackles not being there." I agree, but the main reason that the tackles not being there was a problem was the fact that they were always involved in the play because they were involved in double teams all the way through the first half. It's a good effect in the first half.
My thoughts on the offense was Geno's a douche for missing Jake Bobo wide open down the middle.
That's a big one. Yeah.
That poor soul did 11-1 to score a touchdown. Did I have that bet on?
So you're biased on that one then?
He was
Not just
wide
biased
open,
because
to be fair.
he was wide open, but Geno was laser focused
Mm-hmm.
to the outside. I was just like, you idiot, man. So for me, Jackson Smith and Jigba shouldn't have been out there. I don't think he's 100%. I think he was just made to be out there as a distraction with the way they played him, because you don't play a talent like that. If he's 100% like they did, he could have been, regardless of the tackles gone, in my opinion, he would have given Geno the quick work over the middle that would have alleviated some of that pressure, the quick dump off stuff there. So I don't think he's 100%. I think he was just put out there to try and be a distraction. DK Metcalf, I love a bully boy on my team. Love it. Got all time of day for it. But when he does shit like he did when he got away with it unsportsmanlike, to then
keep going,
do a play straight after, and then chirp off again when McVay is baiting him, because McVay's on the sideline like, I got you, motherfucker. Ha, 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 ha. He was baiting him, and he took the bait like a little baby and didn't look like he cared.
That's a question for you. Have we had a game against the Rams in the last 2 years where they haven't got under DK's skin?
No.
Because Jalen Ramsey did it every time. You could bet money on it every time.
No, but I think he's doing it now that thing he's gone. I don't think it was even Jalen Ramsey, even though he's that type of guy. I think it all comes from Sean McVay.
Yeah, well, I start to think that now as well. It would definitely be in their pre-match conversations to any opportunity, try and get some afters after the play from DK, because you'll get at least one yellow flag a game out of DK if you wind him up.
I think even when Ramsey was there, I think that was one of Ramsey's assignments.
He was really good at it.
You're going to be on DK, do what you do best, chirp him, wind him up, get under his skin. He will get the flags because he's a lot bigger and a lot more physical because of the way he is. That shit boiled my piss. And the reaction on Twitter, do you know what? I don't blame people for saying it. People can say it's dumb and whatnot, but it's like, because he's not learning to mature, is it stupid not just to say, whilst he's still young and a premium talent, just see what you can get for him? There's a multi-million premium talents out there. If he keeps doing that, he cost us at a very, very vital stage, and he didn't look like he cared. He literally didn't look like he cared. And in his presser, he was like, I just can't wait to get back out there tomorrow. And do what, man? Do what?
Do you know the problem I had with the DK thing as well? That it goes further than just the DK picking a very bad time to be giving away penalties. Who's the leader on the offense? Who was the actual offensive captain? It's Geno, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Why is Geno not there? Why is Geno not there grabbing hold of him? Like, if you have an offensive captain, they have to have the bollocks to grab someone when they're playing up and say, okay, like, you might get fined, but we're going to lose a penalty and we are already up against it. Sort your shit out, get to the sideline. You know, it doesn't need to. It doesn't need the coach to drag him off. There's a captain on the offense as well. And DK's gone on about being a leader this year and learning from mistakes in the past. Well, newsflash for you. Mistakes in the past, some of the biggest ones, are exactly what he just did and showed zero leadership qualities
there. The thing is, Geno did it last year when DK got hot. Geno was there helping him. It just showed how off Geno was today. And I boil that down to, I feel like coaching, one person in particular, needs to be left completely separate, because I will derail this whole podcast if his name gets mentioned anytime soon.
It's coming up on defense because I need to bring him up.
But my thing is with it, my brother said it, Lucas said it, and he's always like, he's got this point that the teams who don't play their starters enough in pre-season always struggle in the first couple of weeks, and we saw that today. And when we get onto defense, defense was in a big way, but Geno just didn't look at it. Like DK's kicked, the prime example, DK's kicked off before in the past, and Geno's the first one there, like, you know, calming him down. Tyler was in his own head this game because of that injury. Like, he went into the blue tent, sat down, loads of people came up to him, and he just ignored everyone. He was well in his own head. So, because he's normally over by DK, like, you know, trying to calm him down and get him to not be an idiot. But that's that. Like, there's not much more to the offense. I just want to say Ken Walker is a legitimate. He's just. On
our worst day, Ken Walker still found a way to shine.
Because he's just that good. That hit he did on that defender, he literally has listened all preseason to go, Charbonnet, he runs through people, he does this, he does that, and he just annihilated that guy. Like, just don't forget about me. That's not a dig at Charbonnet, James, before you start. I loved it, because no matter how bad this team was going, Ken is just Ken. Like, he's an unstoppable force. And one thing I'd like to add into that, this game isn't a good sample. Like, I don't want to overreact, but what I saw from Charbonnet, I know you got Aaron Donald right there, and it's always a hard first game, but I don't know whether this is on the coaching or on him himself, whether he should have been used more to try and help out. But what he did, except for that 9 yards when there was no seconds on the clock, he didn't do much. Now, I'm not digging him out there at all. It concerns me just because of my personal opinion of how long it's going to take him to get going. But I'm not gonna like dig him out, because he hardly got on the field. Yeah. It was a shit show all around.
I think the hardly on the field thing is the key one there, because if you're chasing the game and you need a touchdown out of nowhere, Ken Walker's the guy you're lining up in the backfield. The guy that can snap off a 60-yard touchdown is the one you want on the field, because we needed multiple scores and quick. Charbonnet's not the guy for that. That's Ken Walker territory. So while you're chasing the game, it's Ken. It's going to be Ken on the field, and we didn't really have that many snaps in the second half anyway, because we only had three first downs. So, like you say, Ken Walker started the game and did well. Sorry, Karen.
If there aren't gaps to run through, he isn't going to run through them. That's he can't. He's not Moses at the part of the fucking Red Sea. He can't do that. He can't do that on the offense. He can't. So if there's no holes and gaps to run through, he's not going to run through them. So I don't take anything from that Zach Charbonnet performance other than the guards and the interior offensive line didn't create anything for him to run. So that's and like you say, he's not the same back as Ken, where he can bounce it to the outside if it collapses inside. He's not that.
But he can do that. In his highlights in college, he showed it. In pre-season, he showed it. He can do it. You know,
they schemed him open though in a lot of ways.
I'm not trying to dig him out when I say this. And all I'm saying is, it's not because I hate him. It's not any of that. Because I think he, like I've said so many times, he'll be a good compliment. My thing is, how long is it going to take him to get going? Because he's shown the capability to be able to not have a gap like Ken does and then bounce to the outside. He has that capability. But all I'm saying is, like, it's kind of his rookiness. He just wants to, stick to the run fit. Whereas Ken last year kind of went off script a lot. Whether that was true, that he was just trying to make a play happen, or he completely fucked the run lane up and he had to do that, I don't know. But all I'm saying is, Charbonnet, in the highlights I've seen, he can do that bouncing out if the lane's not there, and it's just like he just headlessly went straight because that's what he was told to do, type thing. Like, I want to, like I said, he's probably massively overcritical. This game is not a good sample size, but maybe a bit of initiative to not just like run headless into a wall. You know what I mean?
You have to remember as well that when you scheme up a game as an offensive coordinator, you're playing 3D chess. It's like, sorry, you're playing 3D chess, because you might be scheming up a run where you've got the guard in the center creating a B gap, an A gap, so that you can get a run for 3-4 yards up the middle, because you want your opponent's defense just to react and go a certain way, because on the next set of downs you're gonna scheme up a play that wants to manipulate them in a certain way. If so, you put Charbonnet on the field and they think, okay, last time he came through the A gap, and then they'll move personnel and call a scheme, and then it'll leave someone else open for something else. So you have to play chess in 3D. So he was probably told, you've got 3 snaps. You're going to be running the A gap. That's so. If the ball was snapped to him and then he suddenly did something off schedule and just something weird, he might have got a first down out of it. But the offensive coordinator would be like, what are you doing? Like, the play we've drawn up for you is this, because next time you're on the field, we were going to do a slant and we wanted that guy to be anticipating you going up the gut again. So it's not quite as straightforward as, do you know what I mean? He'd prove himself to be a maverick if he was told what he was doing and he just did something different because he thought it was a better idea. So you can't do that. But before we go on to defense, because I know we're itching to get this all over with, I want to say one final thing. Pez mentioned Smith and Jigba and not being fit to be out there. I thought the same thing. And the thing that annoyed me was, if you have a premium quality slot receiver, the huge advantage of that is your opponent has to create a defensive fit that stops him. But you only have to put out a defense to stop a slot corner if you're throwing to him. If you put him out there and don't throw him the ball, why is he there? Like, you put him out there, you throw him the ball, they adjust shape, you throw to someone else. We didn't establish the slot receiver in any of our early stuff. I would, if before the game, if you said to me who's getting the most first half receptions, I'd say they're going to feed in Jigba. They're going to have to, the defense is going to have to react to it, and our second half scheme is not going to be to Njigba. It's going to be bombs to DK and Tyler. That would have been what I would have thought. Force that issue. Don't put him out there injured if you're not going to throw the ball to him. That was my frustration.
For me, before we get to defense, there was an obvious way out of the slump that we were in terms of offense and who you turn to. For me, it was Noah Fant, and he wasn't targeted once. No yards. Not over the middle, over that sort of slant route that can potentially open up the field for you. And when nothing else is working, when the deep bombs aren't working down the sideline, when Smith and Jigba isn't 100% over the middle, why was Noah Fant not involved at all in that game? I did not understand that from a player calling perspective. So that was a bit of a gripe that I had as well. But we'll get to defense, and I hate to bring this guy up, Pez, but I'm going to bring it up in an interesting way. I'm not just going to rant at him, and it might be an interesting little point that some of you may not know, or some of you may have known but didn't realize or didn't remember. So I'm gonna bring it up, and I'm gonna package this into 2 parts. The first part that will lead me on to Pete, the little Pete nugget. When you look at Matt Stafford's 24 completed passes from Sunday night, I would say at least 65 to 70% of them are bang in the middle of the field, 5, 10, 15 yards, right where the linebackers are, right in that soft prevent coverage. So why is that happening? Why is that always happening? Why are we still playing soft prevent defense? Well, it comes on to Pete Carroll and his defense. Pete Carroll has had 5 defensive coordinators since he's been in Seattle. Those are Gus Bradley, Dan Quinn, Chris Richard, Ken Norton Jr., and Clint Hurtt. Would anyone like to stab a guess at how many days of NFL defensive coordinator experience any of those guys have had before being given the Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator role?
0.
Not one of them had ever been a defensive coordinator in the NFL before they were given the Seahawks role. And to add on to that as well, only 2 of them had any form of defensive coordinator experience at any point in their coaching career total. One of those was Gus Bradley, who was a defensive coordinator at Division II school, Montana State, during the 90s and early 2000s. And Dan Quinn was a defensive coordinator and linebackers coach as well. So he shared these two roles at Hofstra College, which is now defunct. They no longer exist. But I'll tell you for one, they were not a Division I school. And Florida. So three of them, the other three, have had zero defensive coordinator experience at any level. And yet all of them have had the defensive coordinator job in Seattle. Now, why is that? Well, it's because Pete can make an impression on them. If you can't bring in, seasoned defensive coordinators and expect to be able to control their defense as a head coach. If you give the role to 5, in essence, rookies straight out of defensive university and saying, right, here's your first job, let's just give it as a defensive coordinator role. Of course, Pete's going to be able to allow to overrule them and authority on defensive coordinators that don't have the portfolio, that don't have the experience to challenge him and run their own defense like Clint Hurtt. People saying get rid of Clint Hurtt. Clint Hurtt is not the problem. Clint Hurtt is not the problem. Chris Richard was not the problem. Dan Quinn's not the problem. Gus Bradley they're not the problem, because it's the exact same defense every single time, every single year. So who does it go back to? It goes back to Pete. Why is he not? You would think, if it hasn't been working by the Legion of Boom a couple of seasons, and you can argue that was just pure talent that made the defensive front and secondary as good as it was, not so much coaching of inexperienced defensive coordinators. So why would he keep going back to that well? It's not working. It hasn't been working for years now, years and years and years since we've won the Super Bowl. The defense playing this way under these type of defensive coordinators has not been working. So why someone as experienced as Pete Carroll, potentially a Hall of Fame level coach, why would he think, should I maybe go with someone with more experience as a defensive coordinator, or should I keep giving it to guys who I'm bringing up internally, or just giving these guys experience and having work experience guys run your defensive coordinator thing, so I can. It's so obvious. It's so obvious, and some people still can't see it. Like, there are so many good, experienced defensive coordinators out there that we could come in, bring in, and would have a much better impact on this defense, playing the way we want them to play. But he won't do that. And yet we play soft coverage and prevent defense with one of the quickest secondaries in the NFL. Look at the players on our defense. Jordan Brooks is as fast as a linebacker, sideline to sideline, as you will find in the NFL. Devin Bush is lightning quick. On the back end, you've got Devin Witherspoon when he comes back is lightning fast. Tariq Woolen is lightning fast. Julian Love, Diggs, Adams, all quick players. Why would you play soft? Why would you play soft coverage and prevent defense with quick players? You play soft and prevent defense with slower defensive backs, because they can't go man to man with quick receivers. They can't go man to man with quick tight ends. That's why you give them a 10-yard cushion, a 5-yard cushion, so they can't beat you over the top. Why are we worried about players? Rams players of all players beating us over the top when we've got Tariq Woolen, who's probably the fastest corner in the NFL, or is the fastest corner in the NFL, and we've got burners in the secondary like Julian Love, Adam, Diggs, even little Jarrett Reed. He's fast as anything if you put him on the field. It's not a slow defense. It's not a defense full of big, lampposts, big stiff as a board defensive backs that you have to play soft. We're lightning quick. We get to the football. Why would you do it? So I'm just, it's same old, and I don't know why we expected anything else. It is utterly pointless drafting Devin Witherspoon at 5 and playing soft defense. Utterly pointless. Pointless.
The telling point is when we were looking for a defensive coordinator, people were talking about Vic. I don't know if it's true because I saw it on Twitter. People were talking about Pete was going to get Vic Fangio in, and he turned the job down. There's a reason he turned the job down, because he knows he's been in the league a very, 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 very long time. I listened to a podcast with 2 NFL players on, and they even dropped in there when they were talking in the preseason about teams, and they talked about the Seahawks and said that won't change because Pete Carroll plays the same style of defense and never changes it. he's one of the easiest guys to figure out. He's become one of the easiest guys to figure out. And do you know what, though? Whilst we're on it, whilst you mentioned it, the noise is getting a lot louder over the whole Seahawks fan base. This last year, the noise started getting a bit more. You started seeing a bit more calling him out. But after this game, I didn't see.
Do you know why that is,
defending
Pez?
him.
Do you know why that is, Pez? Because in previous years, yes, we were still a good offensive team, but the defense wasn't good. Our secondary wasn't good when we were wheeling out guys like Trey Flowers and Justin Coleman's on your secondary. It wasn't very good, so people put up with it then. Now we're too talented on defense to be pissing it away like this.
I don't think it's that either.
No.
Do you know what? A good couple of years ago, I don't know if you were listening then, Mitch. James came up with a perfect analogy for us UK listeners and any other listeners who follow the Premier League. And James came up with a perfect analogy of we are the Arsenal of the NFL when they had Arsene Wenger. Won them trophies early on. They gave him time and time and time again to try and get them back there. Gave him far too long to the point where he just started decaying that team. How long then did it take them to get back to the top? But
I'm an Arsenal fan. I don't know if you remember. I'm an Arsenal fan as well, and I know exactly what you mean, and I've made the same connection myself. Long-standing manager, loved initially by the fans. The fans start turning. The fans are split. Some people are Wenger out. Some are Wenger in. And the set way of playing football that becomes outdated and still stubborn, and also trying to play the same way. The Legion of Boom and the Invincibles is a very similar thing. You can't play that football without those players. You just can't. And it is an identical situation, and I see it. And also with Wenger, the thing with Wenger was, people looked at him and thought he's not going to go that much longer. So for his legacy, we won't sack him. It was like, we can't sack him because he's only going to be here a few more years. Well, how is that different to Pete Carroll? You can't sack Pete Carroll.
Thank you. Fucking thank you, Mitch.
So it's exactly the same situation.
Do you know what? At the start of this preseason, anyone who listened to the game-by-game prediction, I was so excited. People who were saying we're a couple of seasons away from being a contender. I genuinely looked at this team and I thought we could be a contender this year. And that game just reminded me why I'm so stupid to even get my hopes up, because that man, as a whole, you saw it, the trick play with Geno, all that shit that happened at the start. That's like the things that Waldron brings in. And was it the Buccaneers game? Midway through the season, there was a game like that. And we started the game and we were trickery, we were slippery, the offense was clicking and we were all buzzing. Second half came and it all shut down.
Well, do you remember, was it 2 seasons ago when that first game where we played the Colts away and we beat them and the offense was amazing? It was like nothing we'd ever seen. And then it got put back in its box for another 3 weeks. I think we lost every game or something. It feels the same. It feels the same.
It's Groundhog Day. Like we were saying on our Discord, like I was saying on Twitter, it's Groundhog Day year in, year out. And it stinks. It's disgusting. And like you said, like, I don't want to get away from the defense, because like I said, I will rant about that guy. I do not hide it, and this isn't me knocking him. He's a Hall of Fame coach. Very, very grateful, like Mitch will be with Arsene Wenger. Very grateful what he brought, like history book stuff. But please, will you politely fuck off and stop? Just stop. The thing is, though, he's not decaying the team. I will not disrespect him enough to say he's decaying the team. He's just stagnating the team, if that's a word. Stagnating. There we go.
Yeah.
Because one and done should be stapled above the Seahawks' name for the last 6 years. One and done. I said it a couple of years ago. I'll say it again. Pete Carroll knows how to win in the season. Pete Carroll has not been able to keep up with a single team in the playoffs for years now, because all these new coaches who come in, they're tricky and they love to play aggressive offense. He cannot keep up with them.
Okay, well, you've plugged quite nicely there into some of the notes I've made for our defense, and also notes on what the Rams schemed up to beat us that we just didn't have an answer to. Right. So if you think back to the first half, we were going on drives, and we were actually making things work on the offense to some degree. So our defense was getting off the field, right? But there were still drives, fairly long drives from the Rams, and in those drives you were seeing the same things. You were getting lots of completions over the middle, which were resulting in us having to condense slightly, and then attempts were going over the corners, right? So they were drawing us in and then going over the top, and then we would expand back out, and it would happen again. And each time they went over the middle, it wasn't as simple as rush someone in there on a slant and then connect a throw to them. It was there's no pressure, there's no edge pressure at all. Stafford's got loads of time, so what they'll do is they'll run someone past the nickel to run deep, and then they'll come underneath with another receiver into a clear open space, connect that throw, snap off 8 to 15 yards each time through the middle, and they did it all game. And when you look at third down, I think it was almost every time. It must have been about 80% at least of the third downs that they completed with absolute ease. By the way, I've never seen us as bad as that at defending third downs.
11 for 17. The Rams were on third down.
There you go. Insane stats. So when you look at the third downs, what did we do every single time on defense? We send out, with a minimum defensive backs we sent out was 5. The most we sent out was 7. So every time we sent out 6 defensive backs, we were still unable to protect the nickel.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. And when you looked at how we set up, each time we sent out 6 defensive backs, it was 3 clusters on each side, soft coverage in the middle. So when you see that, you think one of those DBs on the side is going to pick up any runner across the middle and go. And then that relies on one of the two linebackers to curl back into soft coverage behind. So you have one DB pick up, one linebacker hook behind. How many linebacker pass disruptions did we see?
Not one. I can't remember one.
I can't recall a single one. No. So if one of my notes was completions over the. These are notes I made during the game while angry, by the way. So sorry if they seem a little bit short. But completions over the middle point to JB and BW. That's Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner being ill-suited to these defensive schemes and needing more support from safeties and nickels in coverage. That was my call. And that was in the first half. That's before we got absolutely wrecked with it, by the way. So it was a problem in the first half, continued to be the same problem in the second half, and we felt it more and conceded more points because our offense couldn't stay on the field. So Max Stafford was able to just keep doing it and had double the amount of snaps to punish us with it, and we still didn't manage to. If you looked at those completions over the middle, 2/3 of them came in the second half, and it wasn't because they did it more frequently, it was because their offense was on the field more. And if we couldn't stop it when we were fresh and we were getting off the field in the first half, we're definitely not stopping it when our defense has been on the field for the entire half.
You're just perfectly right. Like everyone knows it anyway. Like they had Bobby Orr last year. They know his limitations now. McVay's not stupid. McVay knows in the back of his mind last year, McVay probably knew that Bobby's probably going to go again. And if he's going to go anywhere, he's going to go back to the Seahawks. So it's more like, let's get behind the scenes view on what this man can actually do now. Jordan Brooks, not 100% healthy. The boy shows he's still got speed, sideline to sideline. Love to see it. Still racked up 12 tackles. But after every single tackle, did you see how slow it took him to get up?
Yeah, he doesn't look quite match fit, does he, at all?
Used. So, there you go. Voila. What a brilliant game plan. What does Pete do? Let's play prevent with an old man, no offense, Bobby, old man for the league, and a guy who's not 100%, who realistically, Jordan Brooks is my boy. Love him. Love how his play style. I still don't think we play him to his best suit because of that prevent. I think that prevent really stifles how good he could be, but he's not the best in pass coverage. Playing or scheme, whatever. It's just him as a player, or scheme, whatever it is. McVeigh, yeah, let's do that. Pete, oh no, I'm an arrogant prick. I just believe we'll get it right. I just believe we'll get it all clicking. And then you said something, Mitch, about the game plan on offense. No, sorry, on defense. To me, it just seemed like Pete's plan was stop Van Jefferson, stop Higbee, and then fuck it. Tutu Atwell, who's he? Don't know much. Pete Puka Nacua, he's a rookie. I don't care about him. Oh, they're dicing us up. Just don't let Van Jefferson or Higbee get loose, guys.
The big problem we had, I think, stems as well from pressure. If our problems on offense in the second half came from the tackles not being there, our biggest issue in the second half was the lack of pressure. Because if you look at the way Stafford the plays were designed for Stafford, it was someone goes through the nickel, takes the nickel, whoever's assigned to guard the nickel takes the bait and goes with, and then the late movement through the nickel gets the completion over the middle, right? So how does that mature if we've got pressure? It doesn't. If he has to rush, he has to either throw to the first guy that ran through the nickel or go to one of the other guys who are covered by the DBs we have on the field. But there's a reason we didn't see many PDs for Mike Jackson and for Reek, and we didn't see them. We didn't see the opportunities for them to intercept because they never had to throw in their direction. No. Because their plan to avoid our DBs was exactly that. Take the nickel away,
throw in the middle,
and then exploit the soft coverage over the middle. We never dealt with it. It was terrible.
Do you know what's scary about that defensive line? You see it in preseason, and you're like, we've got a good rotation. Like I always said, I'm so happy this rotation, great. I've still not seen the snap count, and I can fucking guarantee you for a fact when I see that snap count, it'll be the same guys who got the most snaps who were there last year. None of our new pieces, not a Derek Hall getting much, not a Boy Maffei getting much. These guys who shone in preseason. Let's play the starters who have not played all preseason. Do you know what? I gave them 3 snaps a game. Let's get all them lot out there.
The big change to the snap counts on the D line was Maffei. Maffei got the same amount of snaps that you'd hope. He got basically. He got the majority. He got the majority of snaps, and he was involved in a lot. I think he had 2 or 3 TFLs in the game.
I was going to come on to Maffei because I thought he was excellent.
Yeah. I did too. I thought he was excellent.
Him and Mike Morris shone a few times. Got himself in that backfield.
And Julian Love as well was
all
over.
Julian Love, yep. I was going to shout him out. Julian Love. Kobe had that good shoot through the gap, but overall he was shocking.
But this is the point I'm going to make, right? Offense and defense. I can't give you the name of anyone who was terrible. We didn't have a bad wide receiver. Just hear me out, James. You're probably right, but I mean, it's for a game where we had a terrible performance. We didn't particularly from our starters that we expect performances from. I can't tell you, other than the discipline on Metcalf, I can't tell you the tight ends, the wide receivers, the running backs, the starting offensive line, the starting defensive line. No one played bad. There's no defensive back that dropped an interception or slipped off a tackle in a high-profile situation, or there's none of that. We just weren't schemed up well to deal with or reacted to the offensive scheme from our opponent. We just haven't dealt with what they've done.
I'm going to chuck some names out, see if James has them. And these are all off my head, things that just stood out. Michael Jackson, who was shite all preseason. He was shite in this game. Tariq Woolen, I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt because he's been injured. And I don't think he's 100%. Yet again, another guy, Darryl Taylor, not 100%. Tariq Woolen, not 100%. Because Tariq Woolen, I'm holding him to the standard of last year. It doesn't drop anymore, and he played shocking for his standard. He was all over the place.
What did he do that was right? What did he do that was bad?
He just looked like he. So the thing is, right, he didn't concede anything, but he got beat so many times. It just looked like, from my opinion, from my angry rage position, he just didn't look himself at all. He was getting beat. His receivers were getting loose on him all over the place. He looked like he was all over the shop. But like you said, it probably didn't shine up in a negative light because they didn't throw on him. But when he was in and around it, his receivers were getting free from him, not the Tariq Woolen. Like, I'm holding him up here. Like, I'm being overly critical because that's the standard I expect from him. You know, so just understand I'm being overly critical because I expect that standard from him, with a caveat that he didn't look 100%. Daryl Taylor didn't look 100%. Jordan Brooks didn't look 100%. And it's just a clusterfuck.
I think it's an interesting point. I think we actually put we put a lot of players who were returning from injury in very important positions in that game. The snap count for Daryl Taylor was at least double what I thought he'd get coming back from injury and not playing any snaps in preseason and only having half a week of camp.
What was Derek Hall's snap count? If you've got
it. Derek Hall had about the same amount as Daryl Taylor, which was something like, it was 18 to 25% for both of them, I think. That's probably a bit high, actually. Probably sub 18.
Out of interest, whilst you got it up, what was Draymond Jones' snap count? Because except for a flag, I did not
because
hear.
I'm going off the top here.
I did not hear that guy's name once.
No.
Who, Draymond Jones? Draymond Jones had a couple of tackles in the first half that were quite good. There was one tackle for Draymond Jones which was really important, where Stafford had broken contain in the pocket, and he disengaged his blocker and then looped around the back of the D line and then stopped him for a minimal gain. That was quite early on, which was really good. And there was one where he nearly got in for a sack, a rare bit of internal defensive pressure in the first half, where he beat his man in the middle, which I was really impressed with, because it's exactly what we didn't get last year from the bare front with the three, was players that could beat a double team and players that could beat their man and create pressure up the gut. But the problem is we only did it, I think, twice in the game. Mike Morris was the thing that impressed me with Mike Morris. You mentioned him, Pez, was disengaging his blocks. So he'd initiate contact, force the man back with his quick movement, hand placement, and then if the ball was going up the middle, there was a couple of times where he'd made a big impression on his man, disengaged, stopped the run, or was involved in a tackle in the middle. That's exactly what is difficult for a 6'6" defensive end to do, because the guy the other side is shorter, heavier, lower center of gravity, gets up into you and pushes you up and stops you and grabs you, gets hold of you, and the longer arms, you can't use him in those close quarters. So the things he did were the things he was supposed to struggle with. That for me was a huge big sign with Morris.
I'm going to round off my thoughts on the defense. To put it this way, this is how I'm looking at it. After sleeping on it, after talking to you guys at this moment in time, my main takeaways from the defense moving forward are this. The run defense did look better, but that comes with the caveat of, what do the Seahawks always do? They fix one problem and then another problem occurs. They fix the pass defense and then the run defense goes to shit. It always happens. So that's unfortunate. But like I say, is that the pass defense or is that the scheme? I think it's the scheme. Other than that, I think it should look a lot better with Devin Witherspoon and Jamal Adams in there. For me, Mike Jackson needs to be dropped from the starting 11. You play Devin Witherspoon on the outside and you move Trey Brown into the nickel, because from what I saw from Trey Brown personally, I thought his tackling was excellent in the open field. In my opinion, it looked a lot better than Kobe's. I know he's your boy, Pez, but comparing the two tackling wise against the Rams, I thought Trey Brown wrapped up his tackles a lot more consistently than Kobe and other guys that were playing in the middle of the field. And you've got to bring Jamal Adams back in. You can't drop Julian Love, because I thought he was our best defensive back. You can't drop Quandre Diggs, because Jamal Adams doesn't play in his position anyway. So he comes back in. I'm not sure how he comes back in and what role.
Helps the linebackers out.
Yeah,
he helps the linebacker out. But then, like I say, and you made an interesting point with the linebackers in terms of the prevent defense. What's the three linebackers that we've got in the field? Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks, Devin Bush. What is all three of theirs' number one weakness? Pass coverage. And yet we play soft defense prevent defense that exposes bad linebackers for having bad pass coverage. That's you're meant to play soft defense with linebackers that can drop into pass coverage, and them three have never been able to do it really at a high level. So that's
why we miss KJ, right?
That's why we miss KJ, right? Yeah, can we still bring him back? Does he want to
Yes, please.
Wrap his podcast up and play again? I'd love to see it, but listen, if we can bring back Jason Peters, why not KJ, right? I say, but it should be better. It should be better just purely by the scheme won't be any different. I understand that, but we should look better with having Jamal Adams and Devin Witherspoon in there. So I think you take two of those guys that were starting against the Rams in that horrendous defensive back performance out of that lineup already. So you would hope it's going to get better. But I'm to be honest with you, I'm really excited for this week 2 game because we are going to find out so much about this team in week 2. You'd think Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be healthier by then and maybe a lot closer to 100%. Ken Walker is going to be 100% ready to go again. The offensive line, offensive tackle problems, yeah, it's a concern. I'm going to hope that maybe at least one of them is good to play. I think Charles Cross is turf toe, so it's like I never understand how turf toe's so serious. I guess I don't understand because I've never played the game. But to me, it just sounds like he's got a rash or something on his toe. Like, can he just play?
Do you know what the injury is?
No.
It's if you look at that with your hand, if you press your fingers up and then hold them there, it is the spraining of the big toe socket. So when you push your fingers back, like
so he stubbed his toe.
So when you're in like a 3-point stance, you spend a lot of time squatting, supporting your body weight with your joint hyperextended, and you can sprain. It's a repetitive strain of that socket, and it stops you putting weight on it. It's that painful. It stops you putting weight on it. So, in a position where you have to be fleet of foot, it is a problem for a tackle.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I'll take it that it's not a rash then. But oh well.
No, it's not a rash.
But so whether it's Stone Forsyth and Jake Kern again, or whether it's fucking Jason Peters, I don't know.
I don't mind the Jason Peters thing, by the way. We've got.
He was good for the Cowboys last year.
Yeah, he was good. He's a superb rotational piece. Extremely good, experienced player. For our 2 second-year tackles to learn off. If you'd have told me that bit of cap space we had was going to be an experienced backup tackle, I'd have bitten your hand off.
Jason Peters is going to be so stiff. He's a wooden plank. Please. He's 41. He's 41. He's not been on a team all off season, so he's not had a pre-season. He's not had a training camp.
Dog.
He's not.
Doesn't need to at 41. Doesn't need to at 41. Doesn't need to.
He's got 400 pounds. He's not.
Wait until he gets Aiden Hutchinson in a vice grip next week. And
say
you're
that
just
sentence.
What?
Aiden Hutchinson against a 41-year-old Jason. Does that not terrify you?
Savvy,
I'm fine with
wise. Just because he can do spinny little pirouettes because he's so young, the guy will just get him, bear hug him, and just go, not today.
Has this first game of the season made both of you hungry for us to pick up a backup tackle next summer in the draft?
Yeah.
I genuinely think that we'll spend like a 3rd rounder on maybe the extra pick we got from the Denver Broncos.
Is there one in free agency?
There's loads of good tackles in the draft. There's a really deep tackle draft. I think you could get a really good value. You could get a second round caliber tackle from this year in next year's draft in the 3rd round. It's that deep. So if there's ever a time to get some depth at tackle, it's next year. So
I'm getting hyped because this is Mitch's first time to enter. We've got all the negatives out of the way. We're now going to enter into the positive, into the beautiful positive Pez section. You can join in, Mitch. This is where no rules abide in here. James tries to take he's the negative police, but here is where you can just go crazy and make up some really good positive shit.
Okay, I like it.
James did have a jingle, but it doesn't look like he's in the mood to do the jingle.
You spoiled it with your Jason Peters. Fucking, you made me so cross.
Put yourself on mute. You stay out of this. You don't bring your negativity into the positive room.
Can I just start off by saying we're now officially a Super Bowl contender after this week?
Oh, brilliant!
Because the Bengals got humiliated and the Chiefs got humiliated. We've set ourselves out in fantastic company, and we're now a Super Bowl contender officially.
You've made a very good point. What I was going to bring up was it 2 years ago? The Green Bay Packers, they made the NFC Championship after getting absolutely embarrassed at home in their very first game. I think they got 42 put on them. They were shocking. Ended up in the NFC Championship, like one play away from making the Super Bowl. That's how I was going to start positive, Pez. So we might as well roll on this next game.
We agree.
This next game, pull your jersey down, James. This is going to involve you. Come on. Not one running back, but two running backs in mind. We're going to rebalance. We're going to recalibrate because this is the game where Pete gets us all back in. You know, he lets us all out to play. We all start arguing and fighting. He's like, come back into the bag. Come back into the line, the smoke screen, because I think we're going to rebalance, recalibrate. We're going to go to the Lions. We're not going to scrape by. We're going to absolutely be nothing like we were on Sunday. Everyone's going to be like, where's this team? Just like we love to do. We have a really crap game, and then all of a sudden, we just smoke a team out, and that's what's going to happen to the Lions. They're going to come back after beating the Chiefs, thinking that the big dogs, thinking this is it, this is our year. We're going to go in there. Ken Walker is going to destroy them with the help of Charbonnet.
What I will say as well as a positive thing is you learn an awful lot from bad performances, and sometimes you can win the first few and then you get humbled, and you have to learn your lessons very quickly. We had a good first half, considering it was a rusty, return to the league. We had a half decent first half, and we had an atrocious second half. There is a lot to learn from our very first game.
In this section, there's no logic, Mitch. We don't use logic in this section.
Sorry for applying logic to my point.
no logic. It's just all out positivity of just craziness, because Ken Walker is going to go over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I agree.
And Charbonnet is going to get, I'll give a range of between 60 and 70 yards receiving and running, and he's going to score a touchdown himself. And JSN is going to be the lead receiver in this game. He is going to dummy that defense. He's going to put himself out there, statement game, and he is going to destroy that defense single-handedly and bag himself a touchdown whilst he's at it. Easy. What have you got for what? Whilst Mr. Jersey Man here is yawning and doing all kinds of boring stuff, what have you got for me, Mitch? No logic, just
I think we get to the bye week without another loss.
Oh, it's only for the Giants game. Only for the Giants game.
No. It's all wins from here, baby. Did anyone else see the Giants lose 40-0 to the Cowboys?
Yep.
Yeah, me too. We go. It's week 5, isn't it? Yeah, we're going into the bye week 3-1. And then the Bengals lose to us as well, because after
dummying the Lions. Come on, James.
James,
get yourself off mute. Bring us to it. What have you got for the Lions game? Come on. What
a load of shit you lot have just said for 5 minutes. What a load of shit. We're going to go unbeaten till the bye week.
Yeah.
Right. That's it, James. We're done. We're not talking anymore. Sign us off. Nope.
Oh, so you get your bit.
This is positive Pez, not negative Nelly over here.
You asked me to come in. I was happy sat there.
For a positive, we're in positive Pez. Everything's rosy. We forgot about last week now. We're moving on to a new week.
As I've said before, you're moving into prescription Pez because it's not positive. You're living in absolute la la land, mate. So I can't commit.
That's where we live. We've got
Where you live?
unicorns.
I
We've got
live- I live in
unicorns and
reality.
drug dealers selling funny coloured pills in my world.
I live in reality where we've signed 41-year-old Jason Peters and we've
Right.
got Stone Forsyth
Stop
and
ruining
Jake
it. Stop
Hurtt
ruining it.
at
Stop
offensive
ruining it.
tackle.
Even Mitch got involved. Mitch let all logic go out the window. You
Told
can't
him
join
to.
in.
You
Right,
told
no.
Don't
Because that's
black.
how this segment works. You've become bitter over the years. You're like a bitter old man, and I do not like it.
No, I've just become wiser and more realistic. That's all, Pez. So
Oh, realism goes out the window. You know this. We talk nonsense and we just chuck out random shit.
evidently, because fucking we are not going unbeaten into the bye week.
Well, that's it, everyone. That's it. That's the end of the podcast.
Yes.
And as James is taking all the energy out. Well done.
Don't ask me to come back in then, Pez. You should have left me in my chair. Should have left me in my
Don't come
chair. I was
back,
happy
full
there.
stop.
I was happy there listening to your drivel. Shout out the Discord then and we'll get off.
Right, so you can find, we've got a little Discord group. It's a small little community, active. Come join us. You can find the links through our Twitter and Instagram. Can you find it through Instagram?
You will be able to find it through Instagram, yes.
You'll be able to find it through Instagram, but
There you
there
go.
will be a quote tweet on our Twitter page. Come join us. We're not like a massive one where like your opinion will be shot down and you'll be made to feel like a fool. Like I know there's a lot of groups out there with too many people in and they're not like regulated or anything. This is just a small little community of us. I think maybe 25-ish, and everyone chucks whatever they're thinking and we all have a conversation. It's just a good time. So feel free to come join us. Voila. And
Come join
Twitter,
us.
The Twitter is We Talk Seahawks. The Instagram is We Talk Seahawks. The TikTok?
TikTok. Oh, I'm on there.
Oh, James is on there, and that's We Talk Seahawks as well.
Yeah.
It's not hard to find us.
No, it's not hard to find us and come on there, have a chat, basically continue our rants with us off air. That's all we do. And I'm sure by as of the looks of it, the way week one has gone, we're in for a hell of a lot more this season. For good or for bad, there's going to be a lot of talking points. As I say, I can't wait. Come and join Discord and just let me clown these fools when the bye week rolls around. Jason Peters is broken in half and has already retired again. Just claiming injury insurance because he's what I mean.
Come join us on the Discord, and I'm gonna create a new positive pegs tab, and you can all come in there, and we can have a jolly good time and not listen to James.
Right,
James will be
keep me
locked
out
out of it. You don't need to worry about it. He's just not allowed in. Everyone else is welcome.
I'll create
Come
my
and
own
chuck
one.
in your ridiculous, happy, positive vibes.
Yep. I'll create my own one for us realists. Any realists out there? Any realists? I'll create my own little server channel for that. You come and join me on there. Let these prescription boys have their little channel. You know what I mean?
Luca.
Yeah.
Oh,
me and Luca. We'll have a right good discussion then. But anyway, Mitch, any final words?
I want to sign off by saying it's all up from here. I think at the end of the season when we're 14-3 or 13-4, however we end up, this is just going to be one of the few blips on our record. We're onwards and upwards from here, and I refuse to be as depressed as I was on Monday for the rest of the week until Sunday at least. So that is my final thoughts. Oh, and I will say this, right? Worst case scenario, 0-17, and we pick up Caleb Williams in the draft. I'm fine with it.
I'll tell you what.
Let's go get Caleb Williams.
Your antidepressants are working better than mine because I'd say, yeah. But anyway, thanks as always for listening, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.